Breathing with me, relaxing deeply, mindfulness and consciousness, let yourself be free. Breathing with me, relaxing deeply, mindfulness and consciousness, let yourself be free. Breathing with me, relaxing deeply, mindfulness and consciousness, let yourself be free. Notice how your pressures and stresses and tensions from the day naturally fading away.
Hey Kung Fu students, today we're going to be working on hand positions. We're going to be working on brush knee push step, crane cools the wings, single whip, single rod, ward off, roll back, press, push, and a couple other ones. So you can work on your hands while your legs are recovering. All right, let's get at it. Some Tai Chi hand guidelines. Some of the things that we talk about in Tai Chi is that the hands never go higher than the head or below the knees. Just remember one thing. The only absolute is there are no absolutes. There's always exceptions to the rules and so forth. Some of the things that are super important are hand position, wrist position, elbow position, and shoulder position, or the humor is how the positions. That's super important stuff. And here's some basic guidelines. What is center line? Here's some of the basics. Center line is the line that divides your right side from your left side. In Chinese Kung Fu, when the shoulders are square and the center line is open, they call this open center line. Now, if I take my center line and I turn it this way, now my center line's going that way. This is what they call closed center line. Center line's closed. Now, there's another one that we talk about is when the center line, when I'm standing, if this is 0 right here, and I go from 0 to 45, this is what they call half open, half closed. Closed, open, half open, half closed. Now, that's basic center line. Pretty much everything is on the center line, or it's traveling through there. Everything is transitional and moving and fluid and dynamic in martial arts, in Kung Fu, in life. Okay, another example of center line is everything's on the center line. Punch on the center line, push on the center line, pull on the center line, and so forth. Even the kicks are on the center line. When it comes to Tai Chi, one of the things that I find interesting is the positioning on the wrist. In Tai Chi, what we endeavor to is to find a neutral or centered plane of existence. For example, if the wrist, a lot of the times, when the wrist is this way, now what happens is that my wrist is now all the way at the extreme, super easy to ask the question, how many pounds per square inch on average does it take to completely mangle a joint once it's reached its full range of articulation? It's about 8.5 pounds per square inch. And that's average. Some joints less, some joints more. This is how you break. When it comes to hand positioning, especially on this first one, the hand is horizontal. It stays horizontal the whole traveling the way through, right? This is something else. This is the secret to it right here. Horizontal traveling. Both hands. Another thing that happens in this position is that the elbow wants to point downward. The crook of the elbow, this open part, wants to point upward. Believe it or not. What happens is, elbows, this is something else. We want the elbows to point downward and the crook of the elbow to point upwards. Hands parallel to the ground, as much as possible. That's what we're training towards. As it comes up to about eye level, top of the head level, Elbows pointing down, hands horizontal. If you watch those old Southern Kung Fu masters, especially Chu Gar, Wing Chun, those kind of stuff, well, any really good martial arts, like the elbows pointing down. Well, Bong Sao is the exception. Okay, positioning on the humerus. The positioning of the humerus, external rotation, internal rotation, all this kind of stuff, really depends on these muscles back here and your rotator cuff and all that kind of stuff. What happens is people have a tendency to make their shoulders come up. Now the chi is stuck in my neck. Hey man, relax. I am relaxed. Shoulders down, right? Instead of pressing the shoulders straight down, squeeze those muscles in the back and then press them down. It's the same thing as when we do the hands on hips thing, working all these muscles in the back. And then when you got those muscles are engaged, now the shoulder's in the correct position. So then that way, if you hit something, or if you lift something, or if you pull something down, your shoulder's in a nice position in the neutral, set in the neutral area. Same thing as the wrist. If the wrist is doing this, or the shoulder's doing this, and then you're all jacked up. Okay, so put the joints in the neutral position, elbows in, shoulders pressed down. When the shoulders squeeze down, that's a whole nother thing. Let's see, next position. I need a new position. Brush knee, push step. Brush knee, push step. I want you to keep your hands in front of your body so then that way they can respond. What that means is, when the hand is way back here and the other hand's way back here, now this whole area is wide open. And it's going to take a long time for this hand, or it's going to give the opponent enough time for this hand to come up to be able to, cover this side. This side's kind of covered, the front's covered. Okay. What you want to do is you want to have this hand approximately halfway between the knee and the other hand, right around in here. The hand and the fingertips is approximately even. Now, if somebody gets past this hand, then I can block with this hand. This could do all kinds of stuff. It can come up and come down, right? Again, we got this neat little Kuyu Chung iron palm thing going on right here while we're holding the other guy back, right? Or this could be a pull down. So anyways, so keep the hands out front in this position. Same thing on the other side. This is no good. Well, I can't say it's no good. It's all good, but who's judging? We want to take it to the next level. We want this stuff to promote longevity, survivability, adaptability. When this hand's out here, you're in a much better chance to be able to block something or respond. Another thing too, center line. Next one, the wild horse waving the mane. A little bit different from ward off and roll back and all that kind of stuff. Let's show some contrasts and some different interesting stuff. The wild horse waving the mane. Parting the mane on the horse, the wild horses waving the mane, the wild horses stampeding out of the corral. A stampede of wild horses. The hand shape, again, not higher than the head, right? Not too low, right about eye level. Between the eye, the ear, and the top of the head is where I like the hand. I like to see the hand. Elbows pointing down. Notice the position. It's a nice round position here. I like to think of the horse's neck. This is the horse's neck and this is the ear. It's a horse. I'm not horsing around. Okay. This side is the side that kind of patting the horse in the back. This horse running out sideways like this. Right? And here's the back of the horse. Again, my hands are kind of even. Right about in here. Right? The elbow lines up just outside the knee. If I draw a line straight down to my knee, right about there. Doesn't go much further than that. One of the things that's important on the shoulder is that once my humerus breaks this anterior-posterior plane, then I start getting pain in the shoulder joint. So you want to be in about neutral is about as far as you want to go. Okay? Even when you swing a back fist and all this kind of stuff, this is not it. Actually, once it gets to about here, the whole thing turns. Keep that in mind. Other thing too, when this hand is way back here, which is very contemporary, now my whole front side is open. Left side's okay. This side is wide open, super susceptible to all kinds of knockout power. But when this hand is out here, even with this hand approximately, then I can respond in time and so forth. That's how that works. Now, ward off is a little bit different. Ward off, first thing is that TaiChi, the center line is almost always completely open. Almost always. There are some moves where the center line turns. In ward off, it's interesting. So shoulders down, elbows in. Right? If this is the 90 degree and this is 0, about 45 degrees. Now, about 45 degrees. Using the back of the wrist on the center line, right about here. It covers all this neat area, right? The second hand is halfway between the knee and the hand, approximately. So as it's coming out, right? This is the part that's contacting. It's not completely bent, right? This is not it. It's about here. Nice round shape, hitting with the back of the forearm, the wrist, and so forth. Okay? This other hand's about halfway. All right, if it's back here, again, this is a problem. But if it's out here, then we got some interesting leverages and ability to respond and so forth. All right, all of this stuff in here happens this way. I don't know if you can see this. So that's ward off. Roll back. About the width of your shoulders apart. It's about how far apart your hands want to be. If I take my shoulders, I put them over here, and I bring it back over here. One hand up, one hand down, on the center line. Right? Pull straight in. Right? And then here's that silk reeling. Let's talk about silk reeling really quick. What is silk reeling? There's lots of ideas. One of the ones that I like the most is, have you ever actually reeled some real silk? What they do is they take the cocoon and they boil it in water, and then at the end of the cocoon comes off, the end of this silk strand comes off, and then they take that and they loop it around this little thing and it reels. Right? It's this little kind of a contraption, and it reels. So if it looks like you're reeling silk, if you're working in this silk reeling thing, then that's what silk reeling is. This is not silk reeling, right? This is more like, I don't know what this is. Right? It's all kinds of, right? I guess it's different strokes for different folks. If it works for you, hey, that's good. But I like to think more in terms of something right around in here, silk reeling. Not too far, not too close, but right in the groove. Okay, this is the silk reeling thing. All right, so all of this stuff kind of happens right in here, this little circle right here. Right, roll back, press, push. You can actually kind of see something spinning right here. All right, so that's my take on silk reeling for now anyways. The next one, press. Right, the arm for ward off is almost the same. It's the other hand on the inside of the forearm. And this hand is what's doing all the work. Not all of it, but it's helping out. To this all the time, all the time. One of the things we can do is we can only swing things around for so long. Ah! At this point, it's relaxed. And this pressing hand is what actually does it. Here's what it looks like on center line, right around here. Okay. This is more than just pressing. The old way that they talk about it, they don't talk about it this way much these days, but that move is part of what they call crowding the opponent. Evade the opponent by crowding the opponent. Let that bake your noodle. Okay, so press or crowd, call it what you want. Again, it's within this silk reeling range. Silk reeling to me is more like a range. And then again, now push is an interesting thing. I notice a lot of people, one of the things that they do is that they will right. Stop that. Feet flat, shoulders down, elbows down. Know how far to go. Know when you've gone far enough. Know if you've not gone far enough. So for push, shoulders, right, back of the shoulders, engaged. Right, not too far, just engaged. Elbows pointing down. Hands neutral. Feet flat. Right about here. If it starts going right about here is where it ends. And then it goes to the next move. Okay. Right in here. Right about here. It's about enough right there. That's push. Right, you can see the little silk reeling range. Notice it's not this, and it's not this. It's in the middle here. TaiChi's looking for the middle, constantly seeking the center. Ward off, roll back, press and push. Brush knee, push step. Single rod. They call it all kinds of stuff. First off, one of the things that they call the grasping the sparrow's tail, ward off, roll back, press and push, that whole combination, that's a colloquialism, right? People have been calling it that, and there's a story behind why they call it that. The original move was what they called it was the tiger that's too lazy to tuck in its rope. That's a whole nother story. For that, come to class. Oh, single whip, single rod. They also call it the yoke. And no, we're not talking about egg yolks. But if you whip the egg yolks, you're not going to get meringue. So single whip, single rod, the yoke. When they call it the yoke is, when you do it correctly, it resembles that stick that you put on your shoulders to hold big things of water or bags of whatever it is that you're hauling. That's what they mean by the yoke. Like a yoke, like the oxens, they have yokes, and so they're able to push and pull and all that kind of stuff. That's one thing that it does. Single whip, definitely whipping, right? The rod, right? One huge rod. Bah! The hand positioning. This is one of those moves where it really opens up, closes the center line, depending on how you like to do it. Everyone's a little different. I've seen it where the center is this way. Turn on an angle a little bit and it looks like it's doing stuff. Okay. What it really is right about here. Can't even see the rest of my body. So again, elbow pointing down, shoulder, working the hook of the wrist. The other thing I see too is people, they're not doing the wrist. Bend the wrist. The other thing I see people doing is that this hand is usually low. It wants to be between the top of the ear and the top of the head, approximately. That's where it wants to be. The other hand, eye level on the center line. This is single whip. What's next? All right, let's talk about the crane cools the wings. Pretty interesting move. I've seen it done several ways. The way I do it is both of them. Let's keep it simple though. I've seen it done two main ways. I do both of them because that's just how I like it. So the first main way that I've seen the crane cools the wings is the palm facing forward and the other one facing down. I've seen this way. The other main way that it happens is with the palm facing toward you. Some improvements people can make is by keeping the hands in front of the body. When the hand is in front of the body, whether it's this way or this way, rather than here or here, now I'm wide open. This area is wide open, right? I can respond with this hand, no problem. But this hand is going to have to do something to get into the position to be able to respond. So let's keep the hand, whether it's this way or this way, let's keep it in front. The hands will be about even. Okay, right about here. Right about here. Right about here. Not here. Not here. Right about here. Here's how it looks on the other side. Right about here. Some of the guidelines that I use is, this is patting the back of the wild, right? You ever pat a horse? Pat the horse's back. The lady looks in the mirror. My wife's an AKA, so I say the soror looks in the mirror. Because this is a serious matter. So here's how I do both of them at the same time. So from here, after this one, it shifts back right to here. And then, as the circle's closing, the golden scissors, the second one happens. Let's do that again. So from here, it rocks back, and then it comes forward, closing, take this sneaky step up, crane cools the wings, and then it goes into the next one. Practice it like that. All right, Kung Fu students, practice, 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 practice. Enjoy your practicing and practice, practice. And after you've practiced, come to class. That'll fill in more details. All right, that pretty much covers what I wanted to talk about today. While you're rehabbing, while you're healing and all that kind of stuff, now you can play around with the hands. When I see you at class, I expect your hands to be a little bit better. But at the same time, remember, when it comes to expectations, expectation is married to disappointment. At the same time, because the only absolute there are no absolutes, there's some things you absolutely should expect. Hold them accountable. Okay, all right. Practice, 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 and enjoy your practicing. See you in class.
Breathing with me, relaxing deeply, mindfulness and consciousness, let yourself be free. Breathing with me, relaxing deeply, mindfulness and consciousness, let yourself be free. Breathing with me, relaxing deeply, mindfulness and consciousness, let yourself be free. Notice how your pressures and stresses and tensions from the day naturally fading away, like children at play, where you sit or lay, becoming more and more aware of how everything is okay.